Welcome to another video of exciting military items that have been found at the state sales, state auctions, and so forth. This video will be a little bit different from some of the other ones, as in most of the items that you'll see in this video have been featured in previous videos. Instead, what this video will cover is mainly tiger stripe, one of the items that's most recognizable from the Vietnam War. When people think about it, they think about tiger stripe, they think about special forces, North Vietnamese, and so forth. So I thought it'd be good to show off some of the many different tiger stripe pieces that have been found at the state sales, the state auctions, and so forth. So you can see some of the different color variations. Unlike so many other camouflage patterns, tiger stripe, there is just a lot of different colors, different patterns, and also clear up a little bit of the misconceptions that some people have, that when people think about tiger stripe, they think, oh, it's automatically special forces. And as you'll see on many of these pieces, since they've come from the original estates, kind of got a little bit of a story on a lot of them, and you'll see that it's not just special forces. There's Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and so forth. So a wide variety of different people in the Vietnam War that were wearing tiger stripe. So before we get into it, also, if you enjoy these type of videos, you like to learn more about different military items, just see different estate sale finds, I encourage you to like and subscribe so that you will know when future videos are uploaded. There's over 50 videos I've uploaded, as I said, on many of these items. If you want to know more information a little bit about them, if you look back through some of the previous videos I've done, you'll see most of these items. So let's go ahead and start looking at some of the items. First, we're going to take a look at some different shirts. And as you can see, just looking at all these different ones here, there is some different variations in color and different patterns. So this first one here, this one's kind of interesting because this pattern is really mainly associated with the Vietnamese Marine Corps. And quite often you would see U.S. Marine Corps advisors to the South Vietnamese wearing this pattern. However, in this case, this shirt was actually worn by a gentleman who was an officer in Mike Force. And we see the guy's pocket patch there, Mike Force, and you also see how the jump wings, it's kind of almost worn off because it was printed on there. And we see the thread just kind of worn off of the rank, and even his name over here. All of that came from an estate sale company. When they found this, they said it smelled, it was musty, so they took all the items and they threw them in a washing machine. And some of the items unfortunately did not survive, and so I believe that's what happened on this shirt. The insignia survived, 60 years probably, and then just one washing. So if you find items and they're a little bit musty, sometimes it's not the best idea to try and wash them, because you don't know how some of these vintage pieces like this are going to hold up, especially if you just throw them in with a bunch of random items like apparently they did. So anyways, that's a perfect example of a tiger stripe, really synonymous with Marines, advisors to South Vietnamese, but also that didn't stop an Army Mike Force officer from wearing this. Apparently just liked the pattern. So this next one here is an interesting one also. They're all interesting, but this one here, again, tiger stripe, but we see that there's got two different patterns. Apparently the shirt was too small when he bought it. Got it from Taylor or something, wanted it enlarged. So they apparently did not have some scraps that met the main pattern, so they put this pattern in here. This is, some people call it a gold tiger stripe, some people call it an advisor pattern. And you also see this shows up on different patterns after they've been washed a lot. The dyes in them, you start to see like this purple hue to it. So this gentleman here was not Special Forces. He was an Army intelligence officer who actually worked with the CIA and the Phoenix program. And it's actually, you know, he's got his name written up there. And you'll also see in the neck area, a lot of these, they're going to be stamped for, like this one is A-L for Asian large. You had US size ones, you had Asian size ones. This next one here is another one from that same Mike Force officer, but we see that this one, he did quite a bit of alterations to it. You know, you see that he cut it to short sleeves, he added this little pocket up here, but we can see very different compared to this previous one. You know, we don't see the purples, and we see just the different colors are very different, even though they're both tiger stripe. And this one here is a third shirt from the same officer. And again, we see, you know, when they're far apart, you wouldn't necessarily see a lot of difference, but when you put them next to each other, you see, yeah, they're different. Now, I don't think it's necessarily just that this one's been washed more than this one. I'd say that they probably are a little bit different pattern. Or you see this one here, again, more of that gold pattern, that advisor pattern. But we see once again, when it came to adding extra pieces onto it, it wasn't always the same pattern. We see this is like a lightweight, I think this would be considered a late war, lightweight pattern. Again, kind of like the Phoenix program. This one here actually came from a gentleman who was part of the patrol river boats, so a U.S. Navy. You see this one here is another shirt from that Phoenix program officer, and we see that when he replaced some of the buttons, you see most of these have got this similar dish pattern or plate button, which seems to be pretty common on the tiger stripes. And that one there, you know, it's a really lightweight pattern. I'd say it's more breathable, and it's good and it's bad. I would say that those didn't hold up as long as some of the patterns that were made in a little bit heavier material. This one's a third shirt from that Phoenix program. Very different in the patterns and the colors again. Also quite small. See this one here, do not have any real history on this one. This one here looks kind of like it was a set that was probably never worn, because it just doesn't look like there's any fading on it. And you see this one, instead of having like a US size, an Asian size, all this one has is just a stamp of L for large. And this last one of the shirts, again, you know, when you compare those two patterns, very, very different. But you can start to see some of that purplish gray where it was black. And this one here, again, that's an Asian medium. So let's see, let's just find one here that's got a US size on it. See, like that one there is a US sized one, US large. So those are some shirts. So let's take a look at some hats. This first one here, kind of a beach ball style hat. This gentleman was a F4 Phantom pilot. He was stationed in Thailand, and this pattern of tiger stripe, again, very, very different from some of the shirts we just looked at. This is actually a Thai tiger stripe pattern. So their patterns are a little bit well, not a little bit, they're quite different from some of the more Vietnamese and Japanese different patterns that were made. And this one here, again, doesn't look like it was ever used. And this one actually came from a gentleman who was an MP. So again, not necessarily special forces. You know, anybody who was stationed in Vietnam or operating in Vietnam or Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War could have acquired tiger stripe pattern uniforms. We got a tiger stripe beret. Again, quite a bit of difference in the pattern between these two. You see a lot more bigger sections of browns. You know, this one's a little more, I don't know, a little more subdued. Certainly the pattern's much smaller. This is a much bigger pattern. And this one, just like both of these, came from MPs. Different people, but two different MPs. This one here is the boonie hat for the gentleman that we saw the shirts that was in the Phoenix program. And we see that it's got a little rank, or not rank, size. Little size tag. And I believe that is from, some people say that they didn't necessarily make tiger stripe uniforms in Okinawa, but they did the sewing. They assembled the materials. And I believe that when you see a little size tag like that, that's usually something from Okinawa. This one here is another one of the tiger stripe patterns. Again, very, very different. And this one actually came from that same gentleman who was the F4 Phantom pilot. Another beach ball style hat. This one here is a short brim tiger stripe boonie hat. Well worn. This one came from that Mike Force officer. And I see on a lot of these boonie hats that using this black material on the interior. That's not necessarily mean like everyone you see that has this black material is going to be a real Vietnam War one, but I've just seen a lot of examples of tiger stripe boonie hats using the black interior. So this one here, another tiger stripe boonie hat, but you can see the difference on the brim, how short this previous one and how much wider that one is. This one actually came from a gentleman who was in a cavalry unit. So again, not special forces. And when you put it next to these two, you start to see the difference of the patterns. And this one's not a hat, but it's actually a sleeve for a gun made out of tiger stripe material. This gentleman was in the Marines, and I believe he brought back a war trophy rifle that he had recovered while out on a patrol. And let's see, we go back here for a second and I will find, if I can. Let's see, that one doesn't quite match up. Anyways, I thought that there was a shirt here. We'll find it on the pants, that there's a pair of pants in the same pattern. So now we're moving on to the pants. These pants here go with that Mike Force shirt that had the insignia that had been washed and had come off a little bit. It's a very different, almost like a silky material. Very distinct. And even buttons, you know, are a little bit different size than some of these other ones, as we'll see. And we see this pair here is from that same Mike Force officer. Let's look at the difference on these two here. This one, there's a lot of different names for different patterns. I know there's some that people say silver. I would consider this to be more of a silver pattern. Now I don't know if other people, they may say they have some different name for it. I don't know. But anyways, this here are a pair of swim trunks. Again, look at the difference in the, you know, It's not so much a gold, I guess it could be, but very, very different. All three of those pairs of pants, just completely different patterns and color. This one here is another one of those lightweight, late war pants, who I would think that they were probably much more breathable, but I would also assume that these didn't hold up real well because it's very thin, almost like t-shirt thickness. I see a pair of, some people would call it advisor pattern, some would say gold pattern, and we see some of the kind of purplish gray hue in there. And the interesting thing is that when you look at this pair, they're the same pattern, but they look somewhat different just because one has seen a lot more wear and probably been washed a lot more. And then this one here was from a gentleman who was a CB, Navy CB, and this pair here I'm not sure. So again, not necessarily special forces. This pair matches up with that shirt that we saw earlier, and it also, I think, matches the gun sleeve. I just think that there's a little bit of difference in color in where it would be black, but I think that's would be the same pattern. And this pair here, very heavy material compared to some of these other ones. So again, I would think that this pair of pants would have held up longer, but it would also probably be, you know, hotter to wear out in the jungle. And we see on some of these pairs of pants, some have 4 pockets, some have 5 pockets, you know, just on the front, where you got a hand pocket, you got a cargo pocket, then you got this smaller one down here, which some people say that's for used it for a pack of cigarettes, some used it for a little first aid kit or survival kit. And we see that not necessarily every pair of pants had that. I mean, it's a fairly common feature, but we see on this one that it doesn't have the smaller pocket. And this final pair of pants, another pair of swim trunks. Again, different, you know, just looking at all three of those, it's like, well, yeah, they're similar, but they're all three different patterns. So anyways, these were all just different ones that came from estate sales and estate auctions recently. So if you want to know more information about any of these particular ones, just look back through some of the previous videos I've done. A lot of them have a lot more information and history on the previous owners and what units they might have served with and so forth. And as always, I'm not an expert on this. And if you're an expert on it, I'm sure you know more about it than I do. There's plenty of people that would have a different particular name for every one of these and know exactly what they are. Some of them I can understand, like I said, the silver and the gold and the ones that were made for the Marine Corps, but as I said, I'm not an expert on this. I'm just somebody trying to show different things that I've picked up on, try and showcase some of these items for people to see. As always, I appreciate you watching the video, and I hope that you will like and subscribe for this video so that you'll know when future videos are uploaded. As always, thanks for watching.